After a brief trip to Sucia Island, we arrived at Fossil Bay. Sucia Island was discovered in 1791 by Francisco de Eliza, and he called it Sucia de Ilza, meaning that it was a dirty island. And the reason why he said that was because the island was filled with rocks and boulders that made it difficult for him to explore. Another fascinating thing about Sucia Island are the strange rock formations that were formed by the fusion of two different tectonic plates. The upper layer was formed 75 million years ago, whereas the lower layer was formed 50 million years ago. And through erosion, a bone from a theropod was discovered on Sucia Island, which is really, really unusual. Theropods are dinosaurs similar to the Tyrannosaurus rex. And when it was discovered in 2012, there was question about how it arrived on Sucia Island. The current theory is that it drifted with the tectonic plate from the lower levels 75 million years ago. We finally arrived in Fossil Bay, and what we saw was an expansive bay that full of fossils and just a beautiful sight. We had to move our stuff from the boat to our future campsite and on Fossil Bay, and we used the wheelbarrows that we found at the dock. It was a good thing because it's a fairly long walk and we had a lot of gear. We quickly set up our campsites, and some people camped along the shore and others camped near the community center. Here we see Tim and Ed setting up the area that most of us cooked and dined in. Ed, on the other hand, had the distinction of placing his tent in the structure and keeping his tent out of the elements. After we were done setting up our tents and the campsite, it was time to go for our first paddle. Our first paddle started off at Fox Cove. For our first paddle, we were going to go around Little Sucia Island to get used to our rental kayaks, which we had never paddled before. In fact, I had to stop at Little Sucia Island just to adjust my foot pedals because they weren't quite right, as you'll shortly see. During the paddle, I noticed that my foot pedals were off. It wasn't very comfortable, so I landed on the backside of Little Sucia Island and made adjustments to the foot pedal. After I was done adjusting everything, I then took off the back of Little Sucia Island to join the rest of the group in its return to Fox Cove. When I arrived back at Fox Cove, I noticed that Paul, Tim, and Stan all were making adjustments to their kayaks. in order to get ready for our next phase of the paddle, where we're going to paddle to Shallow Bay and back. Shallow Bay was located north of Fox Cove, and it was a really interesting bay with a lot of history to it. As we paddled into the bay, I didn't realize that we were going to someday hike there, and the location of the China Caves are in Shallow Bay.